There was a man named Michael. He was obsessed with abandoned places and the ancient legends that told about them. He enjoyed reading scary stories and watching scary movies, but he felt like that wasn't enough for him. He wanted to experience something real and terrifying. After a long search, Michael finds out about an abandoned place called the House of Spirits. The house was considered haunted, and there were many rumors about terrifying events occurring there. Strange noises were heard at night, ghosts appeared, and mysterious specters were disappearing into the air. Without thinking twice, Michael decided to visit the spirit house and live an authentic experience that he had never had before. Despite warnings from friends and family, he continued with his decision and headed to the terrifying place. When he arrived home, Michael felt terror creeping into every cell in his body. The house looked vaguely abandoned, the rickety doors swaying in the wind. An eerie silence hangs in the air, and long shadows move slowly on the walls. While he was exploring the house, he heard strange noises emanating from upstairs. He decided to try his luck and get over his intense fear, so he carefully started walking up the rickety stairs. The closer he got to the top floor, the louder and more intense the sounds became, as if she was warning him and telling him that he should not continue this crazy adventure. However, Michael was determined to continue. When he reached the top floor, Michael was surprised by a sight that froze the blood in his veins. There was a small dark room, and the lights were flashing in the darkness. On the ground, there was a slowly moving, mysterious object. Michael began to advance cautiously toward the room, and as he approached, the pressure of terror increased upon him. When he reached the door, he felt his heart beating hard. He opened the door slowly and prepared to face what was inside the room. But when he looked into the dark room, Michael found nothing but a large mirror covering the entire wall. It seemed very strange. He expected to find something scary or a ghost waiting for him. Michael approached the mirror to examine it, and when he looked inside it, he was greatly amazed. Not only did he see his reflection, he also saw all the terrifying events he went through at home. He saw himself going past the rickety doors, up the steps, and wandering upstairs. Suddenly, Mikhail felt something strange happening. However, these negative nights did not continue to shake Michael. Despite his horrific experience in the House of Spirits, his lust for horror has once again permeated his consciousness. He began looking for new challenges that would terrify him and keep him addicted to fear. One day, he finds an advertisement for the trial of a famous haunted house called the Mansion of Demons. It is said to be the most terrifying place in the country, and anyone should be brave enough to enter it. However, there was no evidence that it was real. But that didn't matter to Michael. He wanted challenge and real horror. He decided to find his way to the Demon Palace and live this terrifying experience. When he arrived at the palace, Michael felt a cold creeping into his bones. The palace looked very old, its broken windows reflecting the pale moonlight. The dead trees surrounding the palace waved in the air like eerie arms welcoming him. Michael entered the palace with cautious steps, but he felt something strange happening. The more he moved in the palace, the more dark spirits haunted him. He heard shaky voices whispering in his ears and felt cold breath on his face. As he walked down the dark corridors, he encountered a large room that looked like the place of a satanic ritual. Extinguished candles cast eerie shadows on the walls, and images of dark planes cover the floor. Suddenly, Michael felt something wrap around his foot. He looked down and saw that he had been grabbed by a rotting, jagged hand hiding under the dirt. He tried hard to escape, but the hand was forcefully pulling him down. With every passing second, the pressures and dark spirits around Michael increased. He was screaming and begging to be saved, but no one responded to his terrifying cries. Suddenly, the lights went out, and Michael was left in complete darkness, unable to see anything around him. Deathly silence hung in the air, and all she could hear was his rapid heartbeat and rapid breathing. Suddenly, he heard a distorted voice, which seemed to come from far away. The voice gradually moved away, and the words were unclear and garbled. Michael tried to concentrate, tried to understand what the voice was saying. "Michael, can you hear me?" the voice said in a whisper. "Yes. Who are you? Where are you?" Michael shouted into the darkness, trying to grab anything he could. "I am a soul trapped in this cursed palace. Please, help me get out of here," the voice answered.
Suddenly, he heard a distorted voice, which seemed to come from far away. The voice gradually moved away, and the words were unclear and garbled. Michael tried to concentrate, tried to understand what the voice was saying. "Michael, can you hear me?" the voice said in a whisper. "Yes. Who are you? Where are you?" Michael shouted into the darkness, trying to grab anything he could. "I am a soul trapped in this cursed palace. Please, help me get out of here," the voice answered. The soul's cry was full of despair and pain, and it touched Michael's heart. He decided to move in the direction of the sound and look for a way to help. However, conditions were getting more and more complicated as Michael walked in the dark. She stumbles upon many unexpected traps and obstacles, causing deep cuts and wounds. Suddenly, Michael stopped as he felt something strange wrap around his neck. He started suffocating and almost lost consciousness. He tried his best to get rid of the powerful fist, but the supernatural strength overcame him. In a moment of desperation, Michael makes a desperate and difficult move, pulling a small knife from his pocket and lunging backwards with it, pointing the knife at the thing he is trying to strangle. He heard a terrifying screeching sound.
Suddenly, the lights faded and the hall went dark again. There was no convincing explanation for what happened. Was this just a trick, or are there supernatural forces controlling the palace? Michael felt terror creeping into his every cell, but he decided to keep trying to get out. He decided to enter another room, but when he opened the door, he was faced with a sight he could not forget. The room was covered in blood, and strange drawings and horrific symbols were drawn on the walls and floor. There are also torture instruments scattered everywhere, and sounds of screaming and crying coming from dark corners. Michael sensed someone's presence in the room and decided to check on him. He stepped cautiously behind a heavy curtain, only to find a man tied up and hanging from the ceiling of the room. He was in very poor condition, his face scarred and disfigured. The bound man began to whisper in a broken voice, "Help me, before the mansion owner returns. He is an uncontrollable villain." Michael wondered how the man had gotten here and why he had been subjected to such terrible torment. But he had no time to think, as he felt an evil presence approaching the room. Michael decides to venture forward and try to rescue the tied-up man. He looked for a key or a way to unlock the chain, and suddenly he found a key lying on the ground. He inserted it into the lock and released the man. But before Michael could speak to the man, he heard a voice whispering in his ear, "You won't get away that easily." Then, darkness covered the hall again, and the dark spirits returned to surround Michael and the freed man. They started surrounding them,